Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are having a good time. So, thank you, Paul and Larry, for joining us. We would be discussing about Metaverse 2024, how culturally and we can say entertainment spheres are innovating in the industry. So, let's start with Larry. What do you think?
Yes.
What changes you have seen in last couple of years in Metaverse industry as you are more into finance and fractionalization? What kind of changes you have seen in this industry?
Well, I appreciate the introduction, Yaz. So I think Metaverse as a whole has changed. It was a really, I mean, if we look at it as a hype vehicle for a lot of different potential IP-based financial properties. It also provided a way in the positive end for being able to be creative, being able to put your art or your own atmosphere into a realm that was kind of limited just by barrier of entry based on culture. But now, as you were talking about jurisdictions, powers to be, and policy-wise, the metaverse, I think, in 2024 may pose a positive and growing demographic for fractionalization of real properties. People talk about NFTs, and a lot of people have had a bad taste left by NFTs. But we forget that it was really a good segue into self-expression and personal expression. Also, being able to provide a personal representation of something that you could put a number behind, right, as an asset. But with physical properties and with, say, things like art as an example, or land as well, a lot of these fractional commodities have the potential to be placed on a metaverse as a placeholder in reality. So I think in that aspect, it's very exciting that metaverse still exists, and that with the right hands and the right steering, it can be, once again, both a socioeconomic icon and a bearer of new possibilities and wavelength for investment in the future.
Okay. Same. What do you think, Paul? What Metaverse has seen in last couple of years? What kind of growth you have seen? Like it has grown or it has provided any kind of new innovative path that it can go into the industry? What do you think?
It's a big question. I'm going to put a bit of a caveat before my answer, which is I'm not a crypto guy, okay?
Okay.
I'm a gaming guy.
Yes.
Okay? I host a show on CNBC Arabia called Game Changers, where I talk about gaming in the metaverse. And so I see everything through a gaming lens, okay? And I've built and backed about $8 billion worth of startups over my career, so people call me the prophet. But I can tell you it has nothing to do with having made money on a shit coin or a meme coin or anything like that, okay?
True.
Just want to preface that.
Wow.
Metaverse to me is gaming. It's a fancy word for gaming. And two things happened in the last few years. I'll go back more than 2 years. Let's go back a few years. I think the reason this word emerged is gaming companies were struggling to attract venture capital, and they needed a word that sounded more adult, that didn't have the same preconceived notions of teenagers playing in their basement that gaming does. So it was a more serious word that investors could get behind, because saying you were a metaverse investor was much cooler than saying you were a gaming investor. Now, I define gaming as the creation of virtual worlds. And by that definition, metaverse is actually a subset of gaming. I think where gaming went off the rails, and I apologize, I'm probably going to offend 90% of you, is crypto decided we haven't been able to F the banks, right? We haven't changed the world. This gaming thing is hot. Ninja was on The Tonight Show. Gaming and Fortnite was in the zeitgeist. Everyone was talking about gaming. And crypto people said, we can do that. And the metaverse that I think everyone in this room knows was born of crypto latching itself onto gaming. My core belief is that metaverse and crypto, metaverse and Web3, metaverse and blockchain, these are totally independent concepts and ideas. They may exist together, but it's not necessary. And sometimes I think we've seen in the last couple of years, to the detriment of the word metaverse, too much intersection of crypto and gaming, too much crypto and metaverse. And I always ask the question, and I'm curious to poll the room. How many of you have actually been to a metaverse? Raise your hand and keep it up. One person, one lonely soul. Decentraland Sandbox, maybe you've been to the website. Put your hand up. Okay. Of course, yeah. Keep it up, please. Now keep your hand up if you enjoyed the experience. Okay? Keep it up. The ones up, keep them up. Now keep them up if you enjoyed it so much, you went back. 0 hands. This is a problem. Gaming is one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. World of Warcraft, which I was a hardcore player of, was a metaverse 15 years ago, so the concept's not new. Metaverse is a growth area. Metaverse done wrong is dead.
Okay. You want to add something?
I agree with your optic to a large extent, but I think many of us here are here, like myself, both were part of gaming culture and both part of blockchain. And people forget in the spirit of blockchain why blockchain exists. And I think a lot of that, there's deviation even within DeFi and crypto. DeFi, decentralized finance, right? That's a part of it. And it was a nomenclature to provide a pathway to aggregate financial freedom, but also freedom of expression. And the optic that you provide, the view that you provide is very, very lucid. It's very applicable on the bad end, but in the spirit of blockchain, it's in the spirit of immutability. So why blockchain exists is for speed of transaction, speed of use, to allow access to a larger demographic. But the most important part of blockchain is in the spirit of immutability. That's why blockchains exist, so that we can show everything. So while there is a lot of negative stigma in connotation with the cross-blending of those segue markets, I still believe, to my heart, being from a security background, that the blockchain can provide transaction speeds and accessibility to the markets that are disenfranchised or markets that don't have accessibility. You know, a lot of things, just like banking or crypto, are still a luxury. Banking is a luxury even in many developed parts of the world based on who you are and not what you are. But gaming allows you that freedom. So I don't believe that it's not impossible for blockchain, for the metaverse, and for gaming to have a positive stigma based and built around good people trying to do the right thing. I'm not selling hope or dreams. There's a lot of bad players in the industry. I know this from working from, I'm the CSO at Metatrust Security, so I see so many different bad projects, bad shit coins, meme coins, but there are people like myself that have been around since the beginning that really want to impose and to reinforce the hope that blockchain can be used what it's to be used for good, positive engagement, for your transactions to be fast, for all your data and your storage to be listless on an unlimited ecoscape, just like on a metaverse. The blockchain and metaverse parallel a lot in that way, you know, to the point where many games are using blockchain, not in the model that you prefer, which I understand, because some people would equate those to gambling or to having a profit scheme, but there's also a lot of games that use blockchain for the data storage, for the transaction speeds, so that everything can be tracked and found. So in that respect, in that optic, I think there's still hope, you know? And I think you are a prophet. You have a lot of experience in doing what you do. You don't need to even speak about your reputation, because now from your show, I remember what it is. So I have a lot of respect for what you do. But at the same time, you know, we're still very early. Even though gaming has been around 20 years, you know, plus in what we know now as, you know, the metaverse. Actually, we could look back 20 years ago to, like you said, World of Warcraft, you know. But the blockchain entry, and you got to give it a chance, you know. And as a proponent for 90% of the people that have good intentions here, and a lot of people don't have good intentions in the end because it's profit-driven, we can't bullshit about that. We have to be straight up. Money changes people, but in the spirit of blockchain, I think we have a lot of affable segues. So I guess I will start and end with that on my portion.
No, absolutely. So, as he has mentioned, Metaverse is actually a different industry than blockchain Web3. But I think both industries supports each other and solves problem for each other industry. Like there is a ownership authentication or digital asset ownerships. These are the solutions Web3 provides to the Metaverse. As Paul mentioned, he's author of one of the book named Metaverse Dream. He's a well-known gaming influencer in the industry. So I would like, Metaverse has a lot of segments like concerts, content creation, gaming. Which specific industry excites you? I think answer we all know as you are a person from gaming. But other than gaming, any other industry in Metaverse excites you or do you think the future?
Again, if you define Metaverse as gaming, if it's a subset of gaming, I think Metaverse disrupts everything. This is why I'm massively bullish. And my skepticism around the intersection of crypto and Metaverse comes from a place of, let me challenge the people listening to figure out how they can make this better. Because I think it has failed. I think we all need to admit this failed. So how do we regroup and do better? So that's where the skepticism comes from. Now, in terms of what industries does this displace, my company's name is Holodeck. Does anyone know what that reference is from?
Star Trek, baby.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Sure. Beam me up.
It's a very geeky Star Trek reference.
It's not geeky. It's a foundation of our culture. Come on.
But the holodeck is a room, for those who didn't watch Star Trek. Larry, I love that you're a fan. It's a room on the starship where you could go and ask the holodeck for anything you wanted. So you could say, I want to go skiing in the Alps. And the holodeck would turn into the Alps. You'd have snow under your feet, you're high up, it's cold, you have skis on. So the holodeck can create any reality you want, and it's indistinguishable from the real world. I have this core thesis as an investor, as an influencer, that we're getting to holodecks. Human beings are going to create holodecks, and it's coming faster than you think. It's all within all of our lifetimes. And I think if you think of Metaverse as holodeck, not as, you know, corny goggles we wear on our face or whatever the current technology is, some, you know, Gucci store that I can visit on my screen. If you think of it in the context of holodecks, Metaverse, and therefore gaming, becomes the biggest industry on the planet, disrupts everything. Travel, education, retail, the entire adult industry, healthcare, you name it. Holodecks will be the single most disruptive technology since the wheel. And so this is why I'm actually massively bullish on Metaverse. It will be the greatest wealth creator over the next 20 years. But I think where we get lost is maybe too much emphasis on technology. So, Larry, while I agree that there are benefits to some of these technologies, the average user, the average World of Warcraft player, doesn't care if the game is running a Cisco database, an Oracle database in the background, or MySQL, right? Like, doesn't care. The benefit is removed from the technology.
Sure.
And I would love to have conversations around benefits, not technology.
Yeah, let me get into that. So to have this limitless and effectualist ecosystem that is, you know, sky's the limit like on a holodeck. So if you and I wanted to be on Cersei's Prime in a fight with Klingons, that would probably take a tremendous amount of computing power, a tremendous amount of space to do that on. What better space than a blockchain, right? I'm not dissuading you from what you're talking about as far as the negatives. But blockchain, just like the metaverse in gaming, offers equal access to demographics that are under or overexposed, right? I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. And I know that the average gamer or the average dreamer is not concerned about that. But the reality is, like you said, this will be an industry that disrupts every major financial avenue and major industry avenue. But it requires systema. It requires a modus operandi to have it be safe and to be ethical and to be fast. And like you said, every user, it doesn't matter if it's a blockchain adaptee, if it's a crypto-e or a gamer, they don't want that tremendous barrier of entry. So I think the real conversation to be had is how does an individual like myself and you and I have a good conversation about how we can segue both of those to make an affable and applicable situation in reality, right? Fuck all the feelings, fuck all the bullshit, right? There's no LARP. We just talk about what are the main assets of blockchain. It's immutable. Everything is there to see. It provides with nodes or provides with whatever support apparatus a highway to deliver all this data. The money part, as you and I both know, on a holodeck situation, let's face it, they're not using money or credits anymore, right? What they're using is the fiat as a vehicle for data. The data is the most important part. And if we can create, just like people mine data and aggregate data on a blockchain to get sentiment, to get preference, they're equally important both on blockchain and the gaming apparatus, right? So I think that is a symbiotic bond. I'm going to use a Star Trek euphemism right now. We can be the Borg, right? I can be Locutus. You can be 7 of 9, much hotter, right? But we can provide a hive of cooperation. There has an ugly side that no one likes to deal with, but it must be done. It's a necessary evil. And we have the hive, the blockchain, to provide a super fast, super safe, and positive experience for the end user. And we need to have that semblance of amiability to push the ends of the holodeck and the blockchain. I agree. They're immutable from each other. It's a bifurcated relationship that needs to exist. And I see to high-yield individuals like yourself that these conversations need to continue so that we can come up with a realistic solution.
Absolutely. So audience would be loving two different sides of the discussion. Even both sides would be heavy. How many football fans in the house? Awesome. You know Manchester City? Yeah? So you must have heard that Manchester City has tied up with Disney to create their Metaverse stadium. And as you are saying that demographics would be solved, so they are planning to have a audience from all across the globe in their Metaverse stadium. So do you think this is the future of Metaverse in terms of event, or this in terms of, you can say, sports or concerts or something? What do you think, Larry?
Let's face it, we're limited on many commodities in the world that are real world, like space, travel, time. I can't remember what statistic I was provided, but I think that 90% within the next 20 years, 90% of concert goers and event goers will be doing it remotely from a safe, convenient, and comfortable situation of their choosing, and they will be incentivized for different access plays based on that product. Just like in gaming, you can buy all of these. These industry add-ons are trailing over to exactly the type of apparatus you're talking about. But besides football, besides all of that, we can go back to gaming. Gaming is providing really a release from the reality to create more than just a release now. Now it's utilities. It's based on, it's going to be many different things, functions on banking, social, like, for example, we have social media the way we know it now, but in the plausible and foreseeable future, people are going to be able to interact just like on Sims. Who in the audience remembers the game Sims? Raise your hand. Who played Sims? Exactly. Many of you played Sims, right? That's going to be real life, not just on a headset, but in reality. And I think I'll let this gentleman right here expand upon that, because I think that's one of the bigger use cases soon.
Yeah, I definitely think entertainment's a good use case for Metaverse, no question. I'm bullish anytime Metaverse delivers fun. Okay. I literally trademarked the phrase, the future is fun. True. I think fun is the killer app.
Absolutely.
Fun is the behavioral change agent. Fun is we're rooted as human beings to seek out fun. It's why procreating is fun. This is built into our DNA. We look for fun, and we want to experience fun over and over again. We don't want it just once.
Absolutely.
So any experience that delivers fun virtual or real world, to me, is compelling. When you lose sight of fun as the primary goal, that's where I get worried. This is why I'm skeptical of, ownership as a killer app. I think people may care about ownership, but it's way down on the list of priorities. If you deliver something fun, they're much more likely to go back and want to experience it again.
True.
And so fun to me is always that guiding light of, is this experience fun or not? If it's yes, okay, show me more. I want to see more. I want to learn more. I want to see what's behind this. And fun, I think, also overcomes hurdles, overcomes barriers. And one of the things is, yes, for example, blockchain brings benefits, no question, and we can articulate those benefits. But the other side of the equation is, what friction does it introduce today? And I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that the friction may lessen over time. Sure. But today, to use most metaverses that are not games, you need a crypto wallet. Okay, now the total size of my potential customer universe is how many active crypto wallets? A few 100 million, 300 million, 400 million, whatever the current number is, instead of 3 billion people who play games. It's an order of magnitude smaller. To me, that's friction. So there's a cost. Okay. And the benefit has to outweigh that cost. Sure. For it to be compelling. So if it's incredibly fun, people will go out of their way. I take a recent example, because it made waves in the gaming world. Helldivers 2 is a game. Maybe some of you have played it, PlayStation game. It's, in fact, the best-selling PlayStation game of all time now.
Yes.
But Sony did a thing which was very unpopular in that they forced anyone who wanted to play the game to create a Sony account. 12 million people did, because the game's really fun. So despite the friction that was there, people were still willing to go and jump through those hoops. So I always think about what's the cost and what's the benefit, okay, and does the benefit outweigh the cost?
Sure, I'd like to address that. So if we're comparing apples for the metaverse and gaming versus blockchain or DeFi in general, the gaming industry has 30 years of advantage in time, right? So I'll give you an example. Who knows what the first NFT was, or first fractionalized commodity? Who in the audience can tell me? Does anyone know? You'll be surprised. Anyone? You can yell it. Okay.
Just guess.
No, let me give you the example. Who knows what a baseball card is? Raise your hand. Who's had baseball cards in trading? Who's had comic books? The value of those items in those pieces of cardboard, you could say, is a piece of intellectual property. It's a picture of Mickey Mantle with an autograph. But the nostalgia, the charisma that's attached to that product is the same theory and base that we can apply to even gaming. It's based on nostalgia and fun, as you said, right? That was the first NFT. We've had NFTs for 100 years. That Topps or that Donruss or Bowman baseball card that we attach this value is based on a book that says it has this value, and it's based on the trending of popularity. So if we could give 10 more years of adaptation for blockchain, not just as a crypto wallet, but as an ease of use utility, as an ease of life for real life, a slice of life, then I think those markets, those optics can meld together into something that can be beautiful, you know? And like I said, a baseball card, who would say that this little photograph of like if you look at a Bowman or Topps, or no, Bowman like a T3 Honus Wagner card, it's $2 million for this old faded piece of cardboard for a baseball player that's obscure to most, unless you live in America and you're my age, which is old. But that was the first NFT. So if we could apply millions of dollars of value, and it's a fun, and I don't agree with the speculative part of that, because I love collecting baseball cards, basketball cards, because I just love baseball and basketball, and it was fun to me, and I love opening up the packs. It was harmless fun. I liked reading my Spider-Man and my X-Force comic books. The same can be applied to that. We talk about barriers of entry. There's barriers of entry to whatever we do, It got to a point where comic books and baseball cards are not fun to me anymore. But when I give them to my son and I see how it makes his face light up, it doesn't matter to me anymore, Yeah,
I think we just have to stop using the words. I think that's maybe half the battle already.
Sure. I agree with that.
NFTs, blockchain, immutability, like.
But we have to
Like
assign.
if we took, Mad Men era marketing people and put them on this, I guarantee you they wouldn't have come up with NFT.
But to be honest though, Paul, you and I are from an age demographic that's separate than a lot of the people in our audience right now, and this is what they're growing up. We didn't choose this, right?
But whether they grew up with it or not,
I mean, but that's
it's
what
just-
they're exposed to daily.
So-
You and I don't own popular media, right? We have to. You are a prophet in your space, and I'm an expert in security and in blockchain, but that doesn't mean everyone can swallow what we're giving them, right? We have to allow them to have a way to see both ends, right?
Yeah,
Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, it's more, it's the marketing, it's the word choice, right? Because again, blockchain in the metaverse context, I think no one cares about. Now, if you tell them, hey, this is a more secure place and you won't lose your shirt, oh, okay.
So-
that's a benefit that
I see that.
I can
I see
get
that.
behind.
Yeah, I get behind that too.
I sort of don't care what the underlying tech is and what the underlying tech is called,
So-
because you lose a lot of people
If
when you
we-
go down
yeah.
that path.
So if we say ultimately a end user doesn't care, it is blockchain, meta or something, it's all about fun.
And the benefits. There could be benefits
but
beyond fun.
As you have mentioned that earlier meta was having to enter, you need to have a Web3 wallet. So people would be don't having a email IDs before 20 years as well. They created. So creating a Web3 wallet is also becoming easy. Authentication is also getting easy through that. So I think people would adapt it, but we don't need to forget the fun part. The
Okay.
ultimate goal would be, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll just add that when you're trying to overcome friction, you want to frame things in concepts that people are already familiar with. Because as human beings, we're resistant to new. Anything that sounds or feels new, we resist just by our nature. We like steady state. So I never understood why we started calling them wallets when, for the most part, they're accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So
And in some ways, people are used to creating accounts now. It's a behavior we're used to. We need to go somewhere, we sign up for an account.
True.
Right?
But-
So why put something in front of someone that feels new and scary when I can put something in front of them that feels familiar?
Well,
it's the same thing.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you something. Okay. Do you have a Starbucks membership?
I'm the bad example, but I'm with you. I'm not a coffee drinker at all, but I'm wired as it is. But yeah.
Okay, so who in the audience has a Starbucks account? Raise your hand. Or some type of coffee account, right? Wow, that is one of the most successful digital wallets in the history of mankind. Irregardless if you realize it or not, you are helping Starbucks crowdfund. When you enter those gift cards and those $100 of deposit, it's one of the largest crowd sharing apparatus in existence, and they invest your money without your permission every day. But it's fun because you get coffee and you get donuts, you get pastries and sandwiches cheaper at a fraction of the cost for them. That's an amazing business model. Now, I agree with Paul.
But
It's
Larry,
fun,
your
but I don't.
Your example's a really good
So-
one, though.
Yeah.
It's really good because they don't call it a wallet.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's a card.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
It's a concept
No,
we're familiar with. They even put the picture of the
I'm-
card in the
I'm,
app,
I'm
right?
agreeing with you,
Yeah.
but I'm just applying it in practical terms for the people in our audience.
Yeah.
But I'm just using it as a use case, though. They and another major airline are going to start utilizing blockchain for all of the processing. Why? Based on the sheer volume and expediency and speed of transaction and the immutability. Because there's only so much that can be done on conventional cloud storage and server storage. So they're going blockchain for speed and immutability. And I think this is a good example of where we can agree to disagree and also agree that it's fun.
I'm an optimist.
I'm an
people think
optimist
I'm a
too, man.
pessimist.
Come on,
I'm an
let's bring it in for
optimist.
optimism. Right? Yeah, so we're actually not disagreeing. We just have different segues and different viewpoints on how everything could be made. And I agree, to lower the barrier of entry, we don't have to use all the language. We can make it fun for people, but the responsibility of making it fun does have a technical requirement, and that's why people like myself and Yax exist in the world to provide the technical component to make it safe and affable, right?
Hope you guys would be enjoying the two sides of the session. Audience, do you have any questions for the panel? Any questions regarding Metaverse, how blockchain NFT can be used in Metaverse or something? If you don't have any question, I have a last question. Are we ready in terms of infrastructure and tech for Metaverse? Because I think we require a higher bandwidth and GBPS internet, and hardware should be economical. What do you think? What other aspect? Are we ready with Metaverse? Just 2-minute answers.
I'm going to address that very quickly. There still needs to be a lot of work to get to the fun level, right? Because there's always going to be people with different perspectives and maybe different different motivations, right? But to really be deep-pinned or decentralized, you can't just be on a cloud or a server all the time. You need to have the processing power. So decentralized node and GPU technology is essential to that process. That's what I'll end that part with. Besides the blockchain, yeah.
Understood. What do you think? Are we ready for Metaverse or?
No, I mean, again, are we going to have holodecks tomorrow? No. The hardware side, I never really worry about because the trends over history are consistent, right? Things get faster, things get cheaper, things get smaller. So the hardware piece of the metaverse and holodecks is happening, right? The GPU performance today is 10x what it was 10 years ago, was 100x what it was 20 years ago. So the trend is going in the right direction from a hardware standpoint of what we need to power the holodecks and the metaverse. I think there's the human senses that still need to be figured out and the interfaces that still need to be figured out. I don't know if goggles are the answer. I suspect it's going to be either room scale or Neuralink style interfaces that will put images in our brains and that satisfies some of the other sensory kind of components. I'm already seeing technologies. Disney announced hollow tiles. They're jumping on my Star Trek trend here. So to allow for movement in a metaverse that, while you're essentially standing still. So the hardware pieces are being solved. I think the tough part is always, what is the experience you're driving with that hardware? True. What is the content? What is the fun? How do we create experiences that people are going to want to be a part of and spend time in and unplug from the real world and plug themselves into this for days, years on end? I think that is maybe the most interesting part and hasn't been solved today yet.
Awesome. So on a conclusive note, we are early in Metaverse, but it would be always a fun with decentralization or what. We will see how the companies make it. But thank you guys for joining us. Paul and Larry, thank you for your valuable time. Thank you guys, everyone on the audience joining us. We are closing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.